Hi, and welcome to the next instalment of The Butterfly Lion by Michael Morpurgo, published by HarperCollins. The White Prince. They said I could take him out in his wheelchair every Sunday, so long as I didn't tire him, so long as he was back by supper. So, as Bertie said, it was just like our Sundays had been when we were little. There was only one place we could go, a small village only a mile away. That wasn't much left. There wasn't much left of a village. A few streets of battered houses, a church with its steeple broken off halfway up, and a cafe in the square, thankfully still intact. I would push him in his chair some of the way, and he would hobble along with his stick when he felt strong enough. Mostly we would sit in the cafe and talk, or walk along the river and talk. We had so many years to catch up on. He hadn't written, he told me, because he'd thought that each day at the front might be his last, that he might be dead by sunset. So many of his friends were dead. Sooner or later, it had to be his turn. He wanted me to forget him so that I wouldn't know that when he was killed, so that I wouldn't be hurt. What you don't know, you don't grieve over, he said. He had never imagined that he would survive, that he would ever see me again. It was on one of our Sunday outings that I noticed a poster across the street on the wall of what was left of the post office. The colours were faded and the bottom half had been torn away, but the top print was quite clear. It was in French. Cirque de Merlot, it read. Underneath, Le Prince Blanc, the White Prince. And just a picture of a lion roaring. A white lion. Bertie had seen it too. It's him, he breathed. It has to be him. With no help from me, he was out of his wheelchair, stick in hand, limping across the street, across the cafe, towards the cafe. Cafe owner was wiping down the tables outside on the pavement. The circus, Bertie began, pointing back at the poster. He didn't speak much French, so he shouted in English instead. You know, elephants, lions, clowns. The man looked at him blankly and shrugged. So Bertie started roaring like a lion and clawing the air. I could see alarmed faces at the window of the cafe, and the man was backing away, shaking his head. I ripped the poster off the wall and brought it over. My French was a little better than Bertie's, and the cafe owner understood at once. Ah, he said, smiling with relief. Monsieur Merlot, le cirque, c'est triste. And he went on in broken English. The circus. He is finished. Sad, very sad. The soldiers, you understand, they want beer and wine and girls, maybe. They do not want the circus. No one comes. And so Monsieur Merlot, he had to close the circus. But what can he do with all the animals? He keep them, he feed them. But the shells came more and more. They come in his house. How do you say it? It was bombarded. Many animals are dead, but Monsieur Merlot, he stay. He keep only the elephants and the monkeys and the lion, the White Prince. Everyone loved the White Prince. The army, they take all the hay for the horses. There is no good food for the animals. So Monsieur Merlot, he take his gun, and he have to shoot them. No more circus. French. Finish. All of them? Cried Bertie. He shot all of them? No, said the man, not all. He keep the White Prince. He should not shoot the White Prince, never. Monsieur Merlot, he bring him from Africa many years ago. Most famous lion in all of France. He loved the lion like a son. That lion, he make Monsieur Merlot a very rich man. But he is not rich no more. He lose everything. Now he have nothing. Just the White Prince. It is true, I think they die together. Maybe they die already, who knows? This Monsieur Merlot, Bertie said, where does he live? Where can I find him? The man pointed out of the village. 7, maybe 8 kilometres, he said. There's an old house by the river, over the bridge and on the left. Not too far, but maybe Monsieur Merlot, he is not there no more. Maybe the house is not there no more. Who knows? And with a last shrug, he turned and went indoors. There were always army lorries rumbling through the village, so it was not difficult to hitch a ride. We left the wheelchair behind in the cafe. Bertie said it would only get in the way, that he would manage well enough on his stick. We found the house, a mill house, just over the bridge where the cafe owner had said it would be. There wasn't much left of it. The barns were all shell blasted, the ruins blackened by fire. Only the main house still had a roof, but it too had not gone unscathed. One corner of the building had been holed and was partially covered by canvas that flapped in the wind. There was no sign of life. Bertie knocked on the door several times, but there was no answer. The place frightened me. I wanted to leave at once, but Bertie would not hear of it. When he gently pushed the door, it opened. Everything was dark inside. I did not want to go in, but Bertie took me firmly by the hand. "He's in here," he whispered. "I can smell him." It was true. There was a smell in the air, pungent and rank, and to me quite unfamiliar. "Que c'est là?" said a voice from the darkness. "Que c'est que voulez-vous?" He spoke so quietly you could hardly hear him over the rush of the river outside. I could just make out the large bed under the window, and at the far end of the room a man was lying there propped up on a pile of cushions. "Monsieur Merlot?" Bertie asked. "Oui?" As we walked forward together, Bertie went on, "I am Bertie Andrews. Many years ago you came to my farm in Africa, and you brought a white lion cub. Do you still have him?" As if in answer, the white blanket at the end of the bed became a lion, rose from the bed, sprang down, and was padding towards us. Terrible rumble in his throat. I froze I froze where I was as the lion came right up to us. "It's all right, Millie, he won't hurt us," said Bertie, putting an arm around me. "We're old friends." Moaning and yowling, the lion rubbed himself up against Bertie so hard he had to hold on to each other to stop ourselves from falling over. A miracle, a miracle. The lion eyed Bertie for a few moments. The yowling stopped and he began to grunt and groan with pleasure as Bertie soothed his mane and scratched him between the ears. "Remember me?" he said to the lion. "Remember Africa?" "You are the one. I am not dreaming this," said Monsieur Merlot. "You are the boy in Africa, the one who tried to set him free." "I've grown a bit," said Bertie, "but it's me." Bertie and Monsieur Merlot shook hands warmly, while the lion turned his attention to me, licking my hand with his rough, warm tongue. I just gritted my teeth and hoped he wouldn't eat it. "I did all I could," Monsieur Merlot said, shaking his head. "But look at him now, just skin and bones like me. All my animals are gone except Le Prince Blanc. He is all I have left. I had to shoot my elephants. Do you know that?" "I had to. What else could I do? There was no food to feed them. I couldn't let them starve, could I?" Bertie sat down on the bed, put his arms around the lion's neck and buried his head in his mane. The lion rubbed up against him, but he kept looking at me. I kept my distance, I can tell you that. I could not get it out of my head that lions do eat people, particularly if they are hungry lions, and this lion was very hungry indeed. You could see his ribs and his hip bone too. "Don't worry, monsieur," said Bertie. "I will find you food. I will find food enough for both of you, I promise." The driver of the ambulance I waved down first. I thought at first he was just giving a nurse a lift back to the village. He was, as you can imagine, a little more reluctant when he saw an old man and then Bertie, and still more when he saw the huge white lion. The driver swallowed a lot, said nothing all the way and just nodded when Bertie asked him to let us out in the village square. And so there we are, half an hour later or so, the four of us sitting outside the cafe in the sun, the lion at our feet, gnawing a huge bone the butcher was only too pleased to sell us. Monsieur Merlot ate a plate of fried potatoes in complete silence, washed down with a bottle of red wine. Around us gathered an astonished crowd of villagers, of French soldiers, of British soldiers, at a safe distance. All the while, Bertie scratched the lion's head right between his eyes. He always liked a good scratch just there, Bertie said, smiling at me. I told you I'd find him, didn't I? He went on. I was never sure you really believed me. Well, I did, I replied, and then I added, after a while, anyway. It was the truth, I suppose. That may explain why I took all that happened that morning so much in my stride. It was amazing, surreal almost, but no surprise. A prophecy came true, like a wish come true, and this was both. Can never be entirely surprising. As we sat there outside the cafe sipping our wine, the three of us decided what should be done about the White Prince. Monsieur Merlot kept crying and saying it was un miracle, and then he would wipe tears from his eyes again and drink down another glass of wine. He liked his wine. The whole plan was entirely Bertie's idea. To be honest, I didn't see how it could possibly be done. I should have known better. I should have known at once. Bertie had set his heart on something. He would see it through. As we walked the lion down the village street, Bertie leaning on the lion, me pushing Monsieur Merlot in the wheelchair, the crowd parted in front of us and backed away. Then they began to follow us at a discreet distance, of course, up the road towards Bertie's hospital. Someone must have gone ahead to warn them, because we could now see a huddle of doctors and nurses gathered on the front steps, and there were people peering out at every window. As we came to the hospital, an officer stepped down and Colonel stepped forward. Colonel it was. Bertie saluted. Sir, he began, Monsieur Merlot here is a very old friend of mine. He is in need of a bed in the hospital. He is in need of rest, sir, and a good lot of food. The same goes for the lion. So I wondered, sir, if you'd mind if we used the walled garden behind the hospital. There's a shed in there where the lion could sleep. He'd be quite safe, so would we. I know him. He doesn't eat people. Monsieur Merlot here has said that if I can feed the lion and take care of him, then I can take him back to England with me. The brass cheek of it, the Colonel spluttered as he came down the steps. Who in the devil do you think you are anyway? He said. And that was when he recognised Bertie. You're the fellow that won the VC, aren't you? He said suddenly, a little bit more polite. Andrews, isn't it? Yes, sir. And I want to take the lion back to England when I go. We've got somewhere in mind for him to live. And he turned to me. He said, haven't we? Yes, I said. It wasn't all that easy persuading the Colonel to agree. He began to soften only when we told him that if we didn't look after the white lion, no one else would, and then he would have to be taken away and shot. The lion, the symbol of Britain, shot, not talked for morale. Bertie argued and the Colonel listened. It wasn't any easier persuading the powers that be in England to allow the lion to come back home when the war was over, but somehow Bertie managed it. He just wouldn't take no for an answer. Bertie always said afterwards that it was the medal that did it, that without the prestige of the Victoria Cross behind him, he'd never have got away with it. The White Prince would never have come home. When we docked at Dover, the band was playing and the bunting was out, and there were photographers and newspaper reporters everywhere. The White Prince walked off the ship at Bertie's side to a hero's welcome. The British Lion comes home, roared the newspapers the next day. And so we came back here to Strawbridge, Bertie, the White Prince, and me. I married Bertie in the village church. I remember Bertie was had a bit of a disagreement with the vicar because he wouldn't allow the lion inside the church for the wedding. I was very glad he didn't, but I never told Bertie that. Nanny Mason adored both Bertie and the White Prince, but she insisted on washing him often because he smelt. The lion, that is, not Bertie. Nanny Mason stayed on with the three of us, her 3 children, she called us, until she retired to the seaside in Devon. Okay, we're going to leave it there for today, and tomorrow we will have the final instalment of the Butterfly Lion.